Oh, by the way, I don't think I've gotten a I saw that they I'm close to power, but I don't think I would drain it and then throw it back. But anyway, yeah.
How are y'all doing? Yeah? Thanks for coming. I think it's going to be a good one. How was your day? Thesis? Oh, yeah. It's okay. No, I'm serious. I hope you did. I hope you were like listening to what we're talking about, and I think that this is probably I don't keep the name, but it looks like yeah, I'm literally gonna be in a couple, and then like I went to
Hey Kevin, how are you?
Welcome to Small Press Traffic. Very nice to see you all here. We are so incredibly lucky to have these great poets in our midst, Sara Nicholson and Mei-mei Berssenbrugge. I'm so glad to see everyone here. Help yourself to refreshments, books, restrooms are down the hall. We're going to go straight through, so I will in a moment invite Gregory to introduce Sara Nicholson, and then Rena Rosenwasser will introduce Mei-mei, and then we'll hang for a little bit after and mosey elsewhere if we choose. But thank you again for coming, and let's welcome Jane.
It's really nice to be here, and I'm so excited to hear this reading, and I will be done soon. No matter how much you love the world, you will admit that there is an otherworldliness about Sara Nicholson and her poems, and you will admit that this otherworldliness also has something to do with love. Alice Notley said in an interview once that poetry is, quote, involved in the creation of reality out of tiny sounds and meanings, sort of like particle physics, but on the creation level. Notley admitted that this sounds highfalutin, and my guess is that it might sound unscientifically unsound, but no matter. Reading Sara's work convinces me that it is either true or deserves to be true. Aristotle said that the tragic hero should be a little bit better than we are, but also a little bit bad, thus more capable of arousing pity and fear in the audience, and therefore catharsis. In these senses, Sara's poems are tragic. She is a hero. Because Sara's poems renew me in this way, I asked her to write a poem in which I die. And wrote the poem, I no longer had to live in the world, but instead was transported to this other realm in which Sara was responsible for the material world, as well as for the abstractions we make of it. It was awesome. There was no money and things were very fine. While not all of what I just said is true, everything Sara says is true. This is why the still unverifiable fact that I am alive presents less grace and less solidity than Sara's poems do present themselves to me, their devotee. In Notes on the Melody of Things, Rilke describes the person who writes as if they had just woken from a centuries-long dash to hear, quote, the broad melody of all things. Where Rilke is talking about the rare writer, Sara's reader gets to be in this position, to feel as if they had just had a nice nap and woken up to the fullness of time. Sara Nicholson is the wisest and funniest romantic poet who has ever lived. Although she's right that, quote, saintliness would not get me very far today, by some measures she might be just that. Sara Nicholson basically loves you, and her love transfigures you. As she renders the transfiguration in a poem called I Get It, quote, you're immortal, remember, so that means I'm a little more human than you. Please welcome Sara Nicholson.
Thank you, Jane. That was beautiful. I have no memory of that poem. I mean, I remember writing your death, but I don't remember it, and I don't have it anymore. So I wish I did. It is? Oh. Oh wow. Okay. It's really an honor to be here, and it's so wonderful to be back in the Bay Area. I had plans. I was just talking to someone about how I had plans to come out in May of 2020, and then so it took me this long to work here, and to see so many people I love here, and it's such an honor to be ready with me tonight. So I'm just going to read some poems from this this new book that came out this month, and so I'm going to start by reading the first, maybe like 5 or 6 poems in the very first one has a line of sort of like bird song in it, and I thought that would be like too utterly humiliating to read out loud. So we're going to have our songbird tonight is the wonderful Joseph Bradshaw. So I'm just going to like point to you when it's your. Okay, cool. What I said, where I said it, and why. To hear myself say it, to listen to myself saying it to you who listen, to them or who cares why I said it, that I said it for a reason or not, to you or not to you. When I said it on the street, by the pier, in a city, on the water. I said it in the forests of America. A little songbird who is frightened of the moon. She hears me say it to you who listen. I hear her who hears me too. I don't think she listens when I say it. She sings to us the vowels in a sequence. Did Helen say it to Clytemnestra? Did Laura riding over here who say it to me? I believe what I hear in dreams, the people who speak from inside me in dreams, who whisper to me the whys and hows of saying it to you. I can't believe I said it to you. Are there any, did this turn up? Sorry. Are there any good poems about saying it? If you find one, let me know. Weather talk. Something about the music grief is, either pray to or air to, falls flat, the same way art is subject to its objects. Larks and light on table, the pink-green breezes through all August long. I know the things I know nothing about might be things worth knowing. Weather, for example, or how to read the zodiac, the language of dreams. I don't know how to write about the world, what art says, maybe the dark and bright ocean, why black, orange, blue, and copper metaphorically flower and fruit. I'd like to write an elegy in verse or prose, but I've never been able to read music, refused to sing or sign my name. I know things aren't quite so simple, that partly cloudy days prefigure nights without rain, rain the sun the limits of my world. And I, the plural form predominant in November, December, January, calendrical time, pain, grief, joy, energy and entropy, all the state flowers, red, gold, purple, white. This next one's really goofy, I think. Spain. Having never been to Spain, I left for it, as one who hazards faith in vagueness. The rose shrieks each autumn, dies tragically. The pomegranate, too, has nothing of interest to say. All fruit trees flower, but in Spain they flourish on. Minor differences of sounds like these, the traveler must learn. One must occasionally allow oneself to imagine, as of wine flights by the sea, or the carpeted staircases of castles renovated by the state. I am a very rich woman who winters in Tenerife. The Spanish crown seeks my guidance on all matters Tenerife-related. I feel melancholy when it snows over the Atlantic from the window of my Castillo. Mere presence with no cause for concern. My life is lived, for me by others, portioned out in intervals of rest and music. It should be obvious by now that I have many servants. All are well paid. The white buildings of Cadiz communicate in pictures other truths than those intended. The act of reading has become for me a form of blunt force trauma to the head. Thus was I persuaded to enter this sanatorium, where beneath the well-clipped ilex, acorn-fed swine roam wild, until the peasants slaughter them for their sweet flesh, rumored to have healing properties. I am here for my health, trusting that the Mediterranean will work its slow miracle on the brain. I was born for convalescence, the daughter of Doña Maria Berssenbrugge. Each September, I leave a flower on her grave. This is that's maybe the second time I've read that out loud. The first time was at Wolfman in 2018.
Woo!
A few of you were there.
I remember
This next one is about some paintings, and there's obviously so many ways to write about art, and I think that one of the reasons why I kind of like doing it when I was writing this poem was that it's kind of an excuse to use really outrageous description and like really flamboyant stuff. So a few other reasons too, which you'll hopefully see. The archetype. Even Cézanne painted her, naked of course, reclining on a chair. The mythical Leda, mother of Helen, raped by a metamorphosed Zeus in the guise of a swan. She faces front and we can almost see everything. The hips, the uneven breasts, the nipples that echo her blush-pink knees and cheeks, but not her vulva as it's cloaked by a twisted piece of cloth. She looks bored. Unlike Delacroix's Leda, who appears to be choking the neck of the swan, her back facing us, hiding from view her knottier bits, which, however, I think the swan can still see. Cézanne's Zeus bites the wrist, or maybe he's shaking her awake, like the way Yeats's bird pecks at her, grabs her nape and his bill in midair. This is a sonnet, and by the volta we learn her vagina is Troy. I don't like the modern paintings of her story. I prefer those Renaissance Ledas plopped in landscapes rich in Arcadian cliché. Chasms, mountains, and clumps of woods, palazzi with views of the Florentine hills. Michelangelo painted them fucking. Correggio, too, who stuffs his canvas with babies and angels, lyres, flutes, swans, and naked ladies, who bear witness to the mytho-erotic act. But Da Vinci's Leda forgoes the sex, depicts instead the hatchlings Castor and Pollux, Helen and Clytemnestra, sons and daughters of Zeus who bears the aegis, fledgling brood, all pudgy, balding, and bandy-legged, tenderly dwarfed by their shells. Still others chose to depict her inside, to move from the public to the private sphere, as in Veronese's Leda, where we, the voyeur, watch the two embrace, she with a hand at the base of his tail, he sticking his beak in her mouth. She's naked apart from her jewelry, the boudoir is draped in velvet, her hair bedewed with pearls. We are meant to be titillated. This is adultery, after all, however grotesque, so it's okay if you feel a frisson as you eavesdrop on the primal scene. My favorite Lita is also en couchant, splayed wide before divinity, so wide we get an unobstructed view of her vagina while the swan peers into it, transfixed as by the void of archaic memory. Call it the ornithological gaze. This Lita has no author, is attributed to Francois Boucher, master of the Rococo nude, the plump and idle Venus on a chaise. Each of the above-mentioned artists paints the sex as consensual, as seduction rather than rape. Therefore, Lita's story is the story of interpretation itself in every possible style. There are pre-Raphaelite Litas, Cubist, Surrealist, and neoclassical ones. You can find her in miniature and on the decorative lids of snuff boxes, in mosaic and frieze. Yet Twombly's is the only Lita to eschew both nudity and naivete. Its subject is, we might say, movement itself. The flapping wings, the shock and clash, chaos and the strife. Crazy brushstrokes, lines, and dripping paint suggest feathers, maybe blood too. He has obviously painted a rape. I was inspired by my research to look up YouTube videos of swans mating, and as you might have guessed, swan sex is difficult to watch. The male grabs the female's neck, holds her head underwater for so long she occasionally drowns. A user named Jeff commented, they're banging. Not to kink shame the natural, but with Mr. Bright 68, I have to agree. This is not normal, not love. The old masters, I'm shocked, not one of them ever chose to paint the egg-laying, or to pair her with another of those mythical feminine archetypes, the Fates and Furies, the loathly lady,
And it's also Mei-mei published 5 poetry collections with Kelsey Street Press, The 4-Year-Old Girl and Nest, as well as 2 collaborations with Kiki Smith, Endocrinology and Concordance, and one with Richard Tuttle, Sphericity. Copies of Concordance, Nest, and 4-Year-Old Girl are here and available for purchase, as well as her most recent books with new directions, Hello the Roses and A Treatise on Stars. Plant Thought, a chapbook in collaboration with Kiki Smith and Richard Tuttle, is forthcoming.
Thank you, Rena. Thank you for that beautiful reading, Sarah. Okay, I'm going to start out with 2 favorites. And thank you, Sid. And I'm so glad to be back in San Francisco. Okay. I'm going to start out reading 2 favorites and then some new work. So this is the first section of Hello the Roses. My soul radially whirls out to the edges of my body, according to the same laws by which stars shine, communicating with my body by emanation. When you see her, you feel the impact of what visual can mean. Invisibility comes through of deep pink or a color I see clairvoyantly. This felt sense at seeing the rose extends, because light in the DNA of my cells receives light frequencies of the flower as a hologram. The entire rose, petals in moving air, emotion of perfume, records as a sphere. So when I recall the emotion, I touch dimensionality. From a small bud emerges a tight-wound bundle of baby skin coral petals, held in a half-globe as if by cupped hands. Then petals are innumerable, loose, double, sumptuous, unified. I look through parted fingers to soften my gaze, so slow light shining off the object is filtered. Then with feeling, I look at swift color there, its swiftness that seems still as noon light because my seeing travels at the same speed. I make a reciprocal balance between light falling on the back of my eye to optic nerve to pineal gland, radiance stepping down to matter, and my future self opening out from this sight. A moment extends to time passing as sense impression of a rose, including new joys where imagined roses I haven't yet seen or seen in books, record as my experience. Then experience is revelation, because plants and people have in their cells particles of light that can become coherent, that radiate out physically and also with the creativity of metaphor, as in a beam of light holographically, that is, by intuition, in which I inhale the perfume of the Bourbon rose, then try to separate what is scent, sense, and what you call memory. What is emotion? Where, in a dialogue like touching, is it so vibratory and so absorbent of my attention and longing, with impressions like fingerprints all over? I'm saying Physical perception is the data of my embodiment, whereas for the rose, scarlet itself is matter. So when I was writing A Treatise on Stars, I had the like an intuition to try to make one ecosystem between the heavens and earth. I'm going to read the poem called Wonder. It's in 5 parts. One summer night, walking from our house after dinner, stars make the sky almost white. My awe is like blindness. Wonder exchanges for sight. Star by star comprises a multiplicity like thought, but quiet, too dense for any dark planet between, while single stars are a feature of the horizon at dusk, caught at the edge of the net of gems, transparence hanging on its outer connectedness, casts occurrence as accretion, filling in, of extravagant, euphoric blooming. Then being as spirit and in matter is known, here to there. I go home and tell my children to come out and look. The souls of my 2 children fly up like little birds into branches of the Milky Way, chatting with each other, naming constellations, comparing crystals and fire. They exclaim at similarities between what they see in the sky and on our land. So, by wonder, they strengthen correspondence between sky and home. Earth is made from this alchemy of all children, human and animal, combined with our deep gratitude. I see his dark shape moving and shifting against night's screen of stars. My little girl reaches for his lighted silhouette. Human beings are thought upward and flown through by bright birds. We believe stars are spirits of very high frequency. We feel proud our animals come from stars so dense in meaning, close to sacrament. We describe passing time in stories about animals. Star movement is named for the seasonal migrations of deer, wolf, hummingbird, dolphin, and as animals, stars still walk among us. Our snake Olivia, for example, tells me there is no conflict between humans and rain because resource is all around us. A coyote loved night, and he loved to gaze at the stars. I noticed one star is in Cassiopeia. I talked to her, and each night she grew brighter and closer until she came to life here as a corn snake, my friend. She looks like a dancer on tiptoe, stepping around pink star blossoms, surging up after rain. Constellations are experienced emotionally as this play of self through plant and animal symbols and values. A dream atmosphere flows. Everything represented is sacred. Being moves in accord, not of time. Returning from the Milky Way, she realized crystals had fallen from her bag and looked up. My story links a journey to sky with the creation of stars in which place accommodates becoming. Chama River flows north-south to the horizon, then straight up through the Milky Way, like water moving beneath a riverbed that's dry. Abiquiu Mountain, El Rito Creek, coyote, snake, rainbow and rain, spider and hummingbird identify equivalent spiritual placements above. So, wherever we go, there is company, nurture from every star in our regard. I start up to ask my birds to return home and find our land continuous with a starry sky mapped as entities who set into motion occurrence here. Place awaits an imprint from this potential, even though starlight arriving now already happened. What happens is a depth of field before and after drought, fire, storm disruption. I move at high speed, but I'm still standing beside my house in the dark. To go there, I find the place on our mesa that correlates to their tree in the sky and leap up. Space stirs as star trilliums emerge through darkness like humus. I ask one blossom to please in the future renew these bonds between sky and my children, so they will always hold light in the minerals of their eyes. Sun on its nightly underground journey weaves a black thread between white days on the cosmic loom, like a chord or resonance between new experience and meaning. The origin of stars expresses the underlying warp of this fabric. Summer solstice draws a diagonal across my floor. Precession, weaving ground of informing spirit. So therefore, life is fundamental to stars. The reverse is well known. That's why I don't use a telescope, star charts, or glasses when I go out. I think of a place, I wait, then fly to my children. When the stargate is raised, there's a narrow door between sky and ground. But when I arrive, I find the sky solid. I can't break through to visit my starbirds and stand there wondering before dawn. Then sky vault lifts. Maybe I can slip through to find the Milky Way and see its blossoms. Then our sun appears in the crack and pushes through to the day. It's so bright, so hot, I step back and cover my eyes. I hear my mother calling. Okay, I practiced for this reading, and then I put those papers in the wrong folder. So the next poem I'm planning to read, I just found it on as an attachment on my phone. So I'm going to try it that way. This is a poem. I'm thinking the title is "Thinking the Way a Plant Grows." I've only forgotten my work 2 times in 40 years, and both have been in San Francisco. It's in 4 parts, and this is the book that I did as a collaboration with Kiki Smith and Richard Tuttle. Okay. So I wrote about plants before, and now I was quite sure of the unity of things when I wrote A Treatise on Stars. But now so much has happened that I don't have that certainty, and I've been struggling to use the beautiful life force of plants growing to think about what possibility the possibility is in a plural. Okay. I walk in a wetland preserve, intending to observe sunlight through trees. I notice glittering points of yesterday's rain and dusty pillars of light. A moth brightens in moving leaves. New skunk cabbages are neon green. I stop to sketch an unfurling sheath. I draw from its center outward, no silhouette, shading, and the burly form emerges centrifugally. I sit and study my plant for a long time. My drawing is a template of all that needs to happen in one person's receptivity for world to resonate. Later, I see skunk cabbages in a ditch along the road, but they look different. Full sun calls forth greater variation, while in shade the plant is simpler and ramifies less strongly into its surroundings. Back home, I draw from memory what I'd observed. I use imagination to absorb concrete sense perceptions from before. My drawing is imbued with feeling, enlivening what I recall. Then I reflect on my experience, read, struggle with questions that arise, discuss with botanists, exclaim with other poets, and thus grow more receptive to new aspects of skunk cabbage when I return in late spring. Today I reach a high meadow next to a marshy tarn. I step out on a log and sit by skunk cabbages, full grown with tough stalks and yellow buds. I reach across mud to touch a leaf that seems to vibrate against my hand. A plant continuously generates its lifespan of growth and transformation, so my thought that follows this process must also move. Why should my concept belong less to the whole plant than air, sun, or blossom, as I liven our connection through intense engagement with what I see and smell? My study is part of the plant's relational milieu, along with ants and carrion flies. Inside a bud, the shade of an ash tree, root fungi. The latent potential of being seen in the plant comes to expression in an environment I extend through inquiry, because human knowing is part of the ecology of Earth. A leaf centering itself in light and air creates live substance from skin touching space, whereas you and I seek an abstract telos of things to understand our place. Thinking modeled after a green plant recognizes how everything alive interpenetrates, so there are no things at all. Then I see wholeness as a dynamic quality spanning plant diversity. I see lines between things that appeared to be separate. My understanding ramifies when I draw a plant in a swamp. When I feel the joy of being, when I feel the joy of being radiate from a skunk cabbage, grace on our earth's plane acts in present time. Then the divine aspect of grace is grounded in a way that resembles the physicality of a plant and its survival here. So our relation with grace becomes a vehicle for our evolution. So grounding this prayer manifests in healing with plants. Okay, I have to find the next part. Okay. When I was running the flower farm, plants used to visit me at night. I knew they were in the room when I felt a shift in energy. Once at 4 a.m., I woke with the spirit of dandelion flying around. I was sad for the loss of a friend, and the young being, laughing, said, "Hold on to my hand, even when I have gone away from you." In the morning, I touch a dandelion flower on the lawn. I pray for my friend, and a breeze comes up. It doesn't take long for images to appear. A little girl plant separates from the others, translucent, bright green, whom I perceive through clair empathy. She has her own garden in the ether. Her relation with her plants is one of beneficence and trust. Gratitude is my prayer to the garden. It's humbling to wake up and be grateful for its cohesive mystery, to open my heart when what I care for inevitably changes, declines, or departs from my life. Each leaf in its sequence along a stem points to leaves that came before and are to come. In this way, our future as emergent change works into the present. In such redirection, faith nurtures openness to new impulses, so we may embrace possibilities of what can be of a garden or earth gone wild. For me, the elemental void is insight that comes when my life force connects with planet consciousness in a wetland. Our world grows toward this void, but plants respond to emptiness differently than we do. So place dandelion by your door when a loved one is coming home after a long time away. Thank you.
Thank you all again. Thank you again to Sara. Thank you again to Mei-mei. Thank you, Rena and Jane. So yeah, feel free to hang out, have some drinks, talk, and buy the remaining books that are left. Okay, thanks.
I set myself for interest.